Okay, so you can see that I have my subject right here. This picture is opened up, and I've also gone ahead and opened up one of my backgrounds. This is going to be the background where I make myself seem like a fairy, like I'm smaller than life. Remember, you can literally make yourself into a fairy, so you can add wings if you want to. You don't have to if you don't want to. It's all about the scale for this particular project. So once I have these two images and these files opened up, I'm going to go back to my subject. The very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check my image sizes. What I'm going to notice is that these have been fixed already. So my actual image is only 8 inches by 12 inches at a resolution of 72 pixels. If I want to print this picture out, that's when I might go ahead and change my pixels, my resolution to 300 dpi. For this purpose, if I am just uploading this to the internet, I'm going to leave it at 72. I'm going to go ahead and check the other one really quickly. It's a good habit to get into. So go again under image, image size. This one has not been changed. So you can see it's a 48 inch by 72 inch picture. I don't need it to be that large. I'm going to go ahead and change it to 8, and the proportions are locked. So it's just going to fix that height to 12. I'm going to hit OK. My picture gets smaller, no big deal. I just zoom in. So this is a good habit to get into because otherwise I end up working with really, really large file sizes at the end. Once I've done that, I'm going back to my original image. I'm going to go ahead on the left and select the quick selection tool. We've done this in a previous project, so I'm not going to go over quite as in depth as I did before. But again, there are 3 different selection tools I can add. To make sure I'm adding to selection, I want to select the middle one, and it has a plus sign. And I'm going to keep the size of my brush, I'd say around 22. Anywhere from 20 to 30 is fine for the beginning. Once I've done that, and I make sure again it's on plus, it's sampling, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and I'm going to start trying to pull out myself. So as you can see, I'm trying to do this somewhat quickly. You want to take your time with this. You might get frustrated when you're doing this because what you'll start to notice is that if there are not areas of high contrast, sometimes the tool doesn't always want to easily manipulate the foreground and the background. But just take your patience, take your time, and make sure you zoom in as well. I find that if I just leave, this is a beautiful close angle of myself, but if I just leave my window at one particular length, I'm not going to be able to see everything really clearly. So now that I've gone ahead, I've selected everything, I'm going to go select the negative tool or remove. So you can see where the tool has had issues distinguishing where the background and my hair is. I'm going to remove this right here. I'm going to remove here. I'm just doing a quick run around to make sure there's nothing really large. Something like this with my hand. What I would actually do if I wanted to be more specific with that, I'm going to change the size of my tool brush to 1 pixel. So it's really, really small, the amount of pixels that it's sampling. And you can see how closely zoomed in I am. I am telling where to pull based on these colors. Things that have a greenish color to them, I'm going to go ahead and assume is my background. And if it has a pinkish tint to it, I'm going to assume it's my hand. So you're not going to see as much detail, obviously, when you zoom out, but that's when I zoom back out. I'm okay with that for the purpose of this demo. Another place it does this is I'm going to change my brush a little bit larger right by the boots because the boots and the ground are pretty similar colors. So again, I'm going to change my brush size, and you can see I kind of jump back and forth, and I'm going to try and pull out the background here. And again, I'm going in, I'm zooming in, and I get my brush even smaller, go back to that 1 pixel so I can really get up close here. Nope, there we go. There's another piece right here. And once I've done that, it looks okay for the purpose of this. For a demonstration, there's a couple things that could be tweaked. If I go under edit, and I make sure my background is selected, copy. I'm going to switch over to my background image. Now I'm going to go under edit and I'm going to select paste. Boom. Now I have my person. At this point, you can see that the background and the layer are on two separate layers. That's what I want. Now I can start to change this person. So say I want to, move myself. I go to the move tool and I can decide where I want to position myself. Say I want to enlarge myself. I go to edit, transform scale, and I can make myself larger or smaller. I don't like that. I'm going to keep myself at this size. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually transform myself a little bit smaller. So if I go under edit, transform scale again, I hit enter to confirm that's what I want. If I want to make myself look like I am standing behind this zucchini here, what I would have to do is I'd have to go to the background layer. I'd have to select the very top of the vegetable. So I'm doing exactly what I just did. I'm going to edit, copy. Sorry, I'm going to edit, copy, and then edit, paste. It appears on a new layer. If I want it to appear in front of me, I have to drag that layer to the top. So now it looks like I'm standing behind that. Again, the layer that's at the top of your list is what's going to look on top of the file. There's a couple other things I can do with this particular image. So when I go to add a drop shadow, I click under FX, drop shadow, and then I want to try and match the layer of the shadow that's already in my image. I can change the opacity. So right now I've left it at 56%. If you want a really dark shadow, you bump it up. Light shadow, bump it down. I'm going to leave it where it was. And then you can play around with distance to make the shadow longer or bigger. I think that's too much. You can change the spread of the shadow, so what percent it's going forth, and then the size, obviously, is how far out the pixels are going. So once I'm happy with that, I can hit OK. And now I have a shadow, makes me look a little bit more convincing in this scene. The other option I can do is I can also, if I want to make myself look like a fairy, I can give myself wings. So if I would decide I want to do that, I'm going to come under the ellipse tool, which is down here. I'm going to select ellipse. I'm going to make sure my fill is white, my stroke is black, and my stroke I'm going to set it to about, let's say, 1.25 pixels, in the neighborhood of. It's not exact. I'm going to draw an ellipse, and it's going to be really bright right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move it over here. I'm going to go back to layers. I'm going to select that ellipse layer, and right in this top right corner it says opacity. I'm going to adjust that opacity so it's more transparent. I'm going to leave it at about 50%. If I want to change the angle of it, I go to edit, transform, rotate, and I can rotate this around. If I want the ellipse to be behind me, so right now it's floating on top, I have to move it behind the layer. So now it'll sit behind me and act like I have some wings here. Instead of drawing a brand new one every time, I can select the layer. So ellipse is selected. I can go to edit, copy, and then I can go to edit, paste, and I can, again, edit, transform, rotate, and I just hit return to select that. All right, let's leave it like that maybe. And then now, instead of having to draw two new ones, I can select both of them, see how both layers are selected in my box, and go to edit, copy, edit, paste, and now I have a set of two. And what I can do here, again, instead of having to, I can rotate them both, that's fine. You can also go under edit, transform, flip horizontal, And now you have a pair of wings that matches your other set. And you can see those two pink lines. Just tell me that those lines are matching up with the other set of wings. So now I've made myself into a fairy. I might, just for my general comfort level, crop this picture a little bit at the end just because there's a lot of this empty red table that's sitting here. So I might come in with my crop tool and just crop it down just a hair. Just like that. Hit enter. Now I'm much happier with how that image looks. So if I'm happy with the way everything's been done, I'm just going to go under my little hamburger bar and hit flatten image. And now I'm going to hit file, save as. I'm going to name it something. So I might name it Heather Fairy so that it's clear what I want to name it. I'm keeping it as a JPEG. I'm going to hit save. I already have a file named that. I'm going to name it Heather Fairy 3. And now, again, it's a pretty small file. I can leave it at my maximum quality. Hit OK. And now I can go ahead, start on my second background where I make myself look like a giant. It's the exact same process.